Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or if this is your first time here, hi, my name is Dana. I upload a new video every single Sunday, and whenever I have a little bit of extra time, I like to add an extra video or two in during the week. So now is a great time to subscribe to my channel to stay on top of all of my new videos. Also, if you're new to the tea journey, this is a great place to start. Last year I wrote an ebook called The Basics of Tea, and it's just all about just the very basics of what you should know to be able to feel confident to get into tea and start your tea journey. And this is part of the series of videos I created to go along with it. So the ebook is in the description box, as well as a playlist of all of the videos in the corresponding series. If you're interested in going through the whole thing or interested in having a print version, that'll be linked below for you as well. This is the second video of the infusions part of the series. So today we're going to be talking about yerba mate, which is a tea from Brazil, and it's really, really cool and unique and interesting. The reason why this is part of the infusions segment is because yerba mate doesn't come from the Camellia sinensis plant. The Camellia sinensis plant is the tea plant. So that's the one that we talked about before. So like green, white, oolong, black teas, all of those come from the same plant. So anything that isn't that plant technically isn't actual tea. But since we steep and consume yerba mate and other things in the same way as tea, we still commonly refer to it as tea, and we think of it as tea in our minds and our hearts. So even though yerba mate doesn't come from the tea plant, most of us still do think of it as tea, but technically it's an infusion and not a real tea. So yerba mate comes from a South American plant that is similar to a holly plant, like Christmas time holly. And it's really cool because instead of energizing you the same way caffeine does, like through your nervous system, where some of us might get like jitters and then a caffeine crash at the end, mate has a stimulant called matine in it. Instead of the nervous system, matine affects the muscular system. So it energizes you through your muscles. So you get like a nice, slow, steady energy without a crash. If you think of like coffee and traditional caffeine as like a sprinter, you can think of mate as a marathon runner. It's more like a prolonged energizing effect that won't get you jittery or give you any sort of crash. So I don't happen to have any straight mate teas in my house right now, but I do have a lot of really nice blends. So I thought we would go ahead and get this steeping. I'm going to be making spiced mate, but let's get it steeping first. The water temperature doesn't really matter for yerba mate because it isn't like a tea leaf, so you can steep it as long as you want, and it won't oversteep or get bitter. It'll only get stronger in flavor and energizing effects. All right, and then like I said, there's really no time limit on this. I definitely want to give it at least 5 minutes to get the full flavor, but we can go ahead and set it to the side for now. This is spiced mate from Adagio Tea, which is a really cool tea company that has a lot of traditional blends, but a lot of kind of more fun ones too. And this is a roasted mate. So it's gonna have like a brown color, whereas like a non-roasted mate, just like a regular one, would be more green in color. But here's how that looks. And hopefully one of the teas I have will be like non-roasted so we can kind of compare and contrast. But this is a really cool blend. It's kind of simple, which I like because I do really enjoy the taste of a mate. Especially like the roasty flavors of a roasted mate. So the description on this one says, Brazilian toasted mate blended with spices and citrus peels to add a little zest to an energizing brew. So this just has toasted mate, cinnamon bark, natural spice flavor, orange peel, and ginger root. So this is kind of like right up my alley. But yerba mate was kind of culturally known as sort of a socializing drink in South America. And the way that it was consumed is they would put the loose mate leaves into this special kind of drinking gourd. Then they had a straw with a filter at the end. So instead of using an infuser like we use, where we're putting our tea in, then taking it out, they would just leave their mate in there to steep the whole time and drink through a straw. So at the end was a filter that would filter out the leaves so you wouldn't end up with them in your mouth. So if we look at just like a regular straw, basically what it would look like is it would be like this kind of thing, but then on the end here would be like a little kind of round bit with like holes in there so you could slurp the liquid, but it would keep the leaves out. And the special straw that they use is called a bambilla, which is really fun to say. As far as like the non-roasted mate, when it's like regular and green, like the typical kind, it has sort of like that vegetal kind of flavor that a green tea has, but it's like a little more herby. It's something I really enjoy because I love like vegetal tasting teas and like savory teas. So I really love it, and I love those energizing effects. Another one of my favorite teas of all time is guayusa, which is the cousin of the mate, and it's so awesome because again, it has the same kind of energizing effect, but with guayusa, it really helps me to focus. People would tell me that like when I worked at David's Tea, like, oh, this one is good for alertness and focus. And I'm like, you know, how good could it be really, you know? So I drank a cup for the first time, and then I was working at David's Tea, and then, you know, like when I hope this isn't like inappropriate, but you know when you've been drinking, I don't drink anymore, but I used to, but you know like when you've been drinking and you don't really feel the effects that much, but then like you have to go to the bathroom, so you go into the bathroom and you're like, wait a minute, I feel the effects, like, and you realize like how much you're feeling it. It was like that. Like I went into the bathroom, I'm like washing my hands, and I'm like, oh my God, I feel so alert. Like I just feel so like aware. So if you're doing a tedious task, like sometimes when I do like video editing or like when my husband is studying, we'll drink guayusa to kind of keep our minds focused. It's like an hour after you drink it, that's when you start to notice that you feel really alert, and not in a weird way. It's like a calm alertness. It's not like anything weird or over the top. Like if you're not paying attention, you're like doing a task, you probably wouldn't even notice. But since it was like my first time drinking it, and I was like, oh, I don't know about that. I don't know if the effects are gonna really like be that good. Like the first time I noticed, I was like, wow, I do feel like just really, really just aware and focused. This is David's Tea's organic guayusa, and I really like the description because this is exactly how I feel. It says, we are seriously passionate about guayusa around here, and we couldn't be more excited to spread the word. Not only does it pack an incredible burst of energy, but it's also deliciously smooth, grassy, and sweet. Another tea that a lot of people don't prefer because it does have a really grassy flavor, but again, I can't get enough. It does have a really nice sweetness, and like, look how it looks. I had someone tell me once that he thought it tastes like leaves, like the smell of wet leaves in the fall, and you know what? It kind of does. But I love that. Like I seriously, this is one of my all-time favorites, guayusa. And I really like the way it looks too. I feel like these leaves are bigger than like the mate that I usually see, but look at that beautiful like deep green color. And if you don't like the taste of it on its own, you could always get different blends. So chances are, if you love the effects but you don't love the taste, you will be able to find something so that you can still get those nice effects in. As usual, I thought we would kind of go through the blends that I have in my collection. So this is one of my favorite teas ever of all time, and it is retired now from David's Tea. It's called Nutty by Nature. And let's see, oh, I don't have a sticker for it, but it has like apricot and almond pieces, and I think this is just regular green mate. This doesn't look roasted to me, but there's so many other like chunks of things that it might be difficult to see. But here's how that looks. It has like monk fruit in it, so it's really nice and sweet and nutty. This was my favorite tea ever. I bought like a 4-ounce tin when it retired, and I was like hoarding it so much that I'd forget that I had it. And I told one of my coworkers that, and he was like, hey, I have a whole big tin of that I don't drink. Do you want it? So I was like, oh my God, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, I don't really drink it. So here you go. And he gave me a big Tinzilla, like the big David's Tea tin of it. And then like, I ended up leaving my job at David's Tea, and I was working in a bank. And every day when I worked at the bank, I would bring that tea because it was like my favorite tea, and I was trying to like make the best out of like a job that I'm obviously not meant to do. If you've been with me a while and you have watched my vlogs, you know how that unfortunately ended. But the thing is, I would bring this tea every day. While I was training, I was just trying to like keep a good attitude. So I'd bring my favorite tea, and now every time I like smell it or drink it, I still love it and I still think it tastes amazing, but I do think of that memory now. Like I accidentally associate this, one of my favorite teas with a memory that was not so great. So I did that to myself, and I wish I hadn't, but Nutty by Nature was so good. And if David's Tea does pull through this, I hope they bring it back. Another one that I believe is retired from David's Tea is this one, Power Berry. It's all organic, and it has honeybush, blackcurrant, yerba mate, hibiscus, elderberry, garcinia, juniper berry, stevia extract, raspberry, and organic raspberry and natural blueberry flavoring. It has a really interesting taste. I normally don't like fruity teas, but there's something really nice about this one. I don't know if it's because of the fact that it's like honeybush and mate that like cuts through the, but you know what? I guess it's really not very fruity, because I mean, black currants, elderberry, raspberry are the only fruits. So it's not very like over the top fruity. It's really nice and balanced. And I just really like the taste of this one. And this one has the green regular mate leaves as well. So I don't know if you can get kind of a look in there. Another one that I wish would come back. This is a tea from Adagio, even though I have it in a David's Tea tin. I just have so many of these and they're so cute. So even when I like have teas that aren't from David's Tea, I do still use the tins to store them. So when I like finish one off, I put them in the tins. And this one is in tea bags too. And this is a mocha nut mate. And it's another roasted one, so it's a brown roasty color. And it smells so good. Oh, it reminds me of Starbucks toffee nut syrup. Oh, it's amazing. This is a really good one. I recommend this one from Adagio. And then last but not least, it's David's Tea's chocolate covered strawberry. This is the newest one I have. And it has barely any mate. Like I feel like they really could have just done this as an herbal tea because mate is so like low on the list. But it has things like white chocolate pieces, hibiscus, carrot, and it tasted really good. It really tastes like a real chocolate covered strawberry, and it inspired me to make chocolate covered strawberries for Valentine's Day, and they turned out really good. But I mean, it's just weird that it doesn't have a whole lot of actual like mate. I feel like they could have just left it out entirely for how little they put, so that was weird. Okay, let's go ahead and take out our infuser. And this is pretty true to color of a roasted mate. A regular mate would be a little more like green in color. And it definitely has like that roasty note to it. The roasty note combined with like the spices in this particular blend, the spiced mate from Adagio, it's just so like comforting. It almost feels like fall, you know? Because I mean, spiced teas a lot of the time bring up like feelings of autumn for people and make people think about autumn. But I feel like the combination of like the roastiness with the spices really bring it there for me. It's so comforting, but it still does have that like lightly vegetal quality that a mate has. So it's kind of hard to say right now, like things that like David's tea does and things that like Adagio does, because things have gotten weird in our world. Things are really uncertain right now. Who knows what the future of like these tea companies will be? But David's Tea does seem to always be making their mate section of the wall smaller and smaller. So there are really only a couple mate teas they have right now. And also notably, they use mate as a category for like different energizing herbs instead of just being mate teas, putting the other ones as like herbal teas. So it's interesting. Like on their website, when I go to the mate category, it says discover energizing herbs like yerba mate, guayusa, and yaupan for a long-lasting jitter-free boost. Yaupan is a completely different plant. So it's not actually mate, so I kind of feel like that section should have a different name. But then also at Adagio, they do categorize their mate teas as herbal teas. So it gets confusing, especially if you just want to avoid any energizing teas, unless you read the full description and you see like that it says like contains caffeine. If you just look at the bag and you're not paying super close attention, just grabbing teas to buy, you probably wouldn't notice. So it's like mate technically is an herbal tea, but it should have its own category. And then things like yaupan and guayusa, like guayusa I feel like is easier to rationalize for me because it's so similar to mate. They're like cousins basically. But I feel like yaupan I'm like not really sure. So that's interesting. But I'm gonna go ahead and drink this. I'm gonna go ahead and like sit on the couch. It's a little gloomy out today. I'm gonna sit and do some editing with this cup of tea and let it like energize me. If you guys made it this far through the video, let me know if you like yerba mates. What kinds of blends have you tried? Have you tried it straight on its own? I'm super curious to hear what your favorites are. I hope you guys are all doing okay and staying healthy too. I hope you're having a beautiful day and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.